What's going on, Nerds and Nerdettes? The DC Metal Nerd here with a news roundup that dropped this week. We're going to be looking at a bit of casting news as well as some new information that James Gunn pointed out from a new interview with Rolling Stones. We also got a little bit of new footage. I would really appreciate if you rock that thumbs up button, as it would really help with the algorithm so I can continue providing you with the latest news and updates. Let's get into it. James Gunn announced that Rhys Harries will be playing Clayface in the upcoming Clayface movie. After a long and incredibly exhaustive search, we finally have our DCU Clayface in Rhys Harries. Both Matt Reeves and I were just blown away by this guy and can't wait for you to see this film, directed by James Watkins and written by Mike Flanagan. He also revealed this in a separate Entertainment Weekly article. Because this is the DCU, is this the same Clayface that we met in Creature Commandos? He says, I think that everyone will find that out. It will be interesting to see what they do with Clayface, given that it may not be the Clayface we got in Creature Commandos, which has since came and went. James Gunn mentioned a bit about Matt Reeves' Batman 2 and how he's receiving his input, which could be cool if they use this Clayface in Matt Reeves' story, even though Gunn has confirmed that the Batman, along with other projects, will be separate as more as an Elseworld story. Gunn goes on to confirm that the Batman Part 2 is not cancelled. I'll also say Batman Part 2 is not cancelled. That's the other thing I hear all the time, that Batman Part 2 is cancelled. It's not cancelled. We don't have a script. Matt's slow, let him take his time, let him do what he's doing. God, people are mean, let him do his thing, man. He also says that his Batman is still called the Brave and the Bold. Batman's my biggest issue in all of DC right now, personally, and I'm not writing Batman, but I am working with the writer of Batman and trying to get it right, because he's incredibly important to DC, as is Wonder Woman. So outside of the stuff that I'm doing in the projects that are actively going, our two priorities are finishing our Wonder Woman and our Batman scripts. The Batman script, is that still called The Brave and the Bold? Right now, yeah, right now. In the broadest sense, what needs to be figured out to make those two properties work? Batman in this universe. Batman has to have a reason for existing, right? So Batman can't just be, oh, we're making a Batman movie because Batman's the biggest character in all of Warner Brothers, which he is. But because there's a need for him in the DCU and a need that he's not exactly the same as Matt's Batman. But yet he's not a campy Batman. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in a funny, campy Batman, really. So we're dealing with that. I think I have a way in, by the way. I think I really know what it's. I just am dealing with the writer to make sure that we can make it a reality. It's interesting to me that we have no idea or clue as to who these writers are and why he isn't announcing them by name. It'd be great to have an idea as to who they are so we can see some of their past work, just my own curiosity, and very telling as to why he isn't announcing who the writers are across all of his upcoming projects. When asked about Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, Gunn confirms that he changed the title to just Supergirl. That's no longer called Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, correct? I think it's just called Supergirl.
Mateus Schoenaerts, I think, is inspired. I really love the way he talks.
Dude, wait till you see how scary he is in the movie.
Because Prem is such a great villain.
He's so, oh my
He's
god, he's so scary and creepy. It's so cool. Like, it's really cool.
Getting more into Superman, Gunn reveals that in this universe, Superman is depowered and not as powerful as he's been known to be in the past and in the comics. What were some of the other things you felt you needed to explain to make this Superman work? There are things that I know I don't explain that I don't even want to say out loud, but I wanted Superman to be vulnerable. I see the online things, who would beat whom, Homelander or Superman or whatever, Adam Warlock or Brightburn, and I'm like, this is the stupidest conversation. Like, so then whoever would win this fight means that they're the best? Because I'll just go out and write God-Man who can destroy you with a wink. And I win. I win all the fights forever. But I didn't want a Superman who could punch planets. And also we're creating a whole universe now, so what's a girl with wings gonna do in the face of that? So he's a little less powerful. Green Lantern Guy Gardner's pretty powerful. They're all pretty powerful. I'm not excited to hear that Superman is less powerful in this universe, but it would be cool to see Supes gradually becoming more powerful as the movie goes on or as this universe continues. I really want to see Superman punching a planet, not gonna lie. It is revealed that Gunn seems to have put in a little nugget here about how he's going to portray the fact that Lois can't see past his glasses. In the Superman trailer, we see that Lois already knows Clark is Superman, so you bypass one of the stickiest issues. How does Lois not see past the glasses? It comes up again later in the movie and it's explained. She says it, we mention it, and it's a one-off and people chuckle, but there's stuff later in the movie about the glasses that are canon. That's canon in the comics. And when asked about whether Superman uses super hypnotism to change people's perception of him in the glasses, he says something like that. I only know it from DC Comics writer Tom King. It would be really cool if he tackles something along the lines of Superman being able to blur his face or change his facial structure, which is canon in the comics, for a clever way to explain how no one can recognize him without his glasses. An interesting tidbit here that I wanted to address with what Gunn has denied when it comes to pressure riding on Superman for the DCU. There are people who've been saying the whole future of the studio might be riding on this movie. How do you work in the face of that kind of pressure? Really, I just go, that's their business, because that's not the truth for me. My truth is, this is the first movie out of DC Studios. Other people may say it's gotta be a home run, nothing else. I'm like, no, I'd be very happy with the double. Iron Man wasn't the be-all and end-all. It wasn't Avatar. We are doing something that's a piece of the puzzle. It's not the puzzle itself. We have Peacemaker, we have Supergirl, and what we want to do is make a movie that people love. They feel connected to the characters. It's just this one movie. It's not everything. I hate it when there's an article and it's going on about all the problems and blah, 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 and that means even more pressure on James Gunn and Superman. I'm like, guys, I'm not responsible for all that. I'm responsible for my piece of the pie. I've got to make my budget back. I'll be very happy with that. Being on the internet, there's a lot of scrutiny and misinformation, so it's difficult to know what is and isn't true, but the fact of the matter is that this is a big deal, and while it may not be the be-all and end-all to the success of the DCU, it's definitely a huge part of it, so we will just have to wait and see. There was that situation on social media where people thought David flying was a CG superimposed thing. Was that telling when you talk about having to figure out how to pull off these mechanics of getting David to fly authentically? No, I don't think it was so much. It was a TV commercial and it wasn't a finished visual effects shot. So the part of him flying, it was a photograph of his face and him flying. It was a photograph of a drone flying in front of an actual background. So all the pieces were real, but it was incorporated in kind of a funky way. I didn't love the shot, so it's not even the shot that's in the movie. Sometimes I'm pretty strict about when I'm going through a trailer and looking at each of the shots, but sometimes the commercials, I forget to look at this closely. So that one kind of got by me. We can see here that James Gunn has come out to say there's absolutely zero CG in his face. People's faces can look different when you put a wide-angle lens up close. The background plate in Svalbard is 100% real, as is David. This just seems like it's a complete lie, or like he's trying to, not be blamed. This is interesting because there was a lot of chaos for this specific shot. Gunn saying he didn't love the shot is almost like he's trying to save face that he didn't read the comments and cut it out for himself rather than the fact that it was just a really bad shot and poorly filmed and executed. You can find a lot of discourse for this specific clip that has been torn to shreds by everyone, including myself on Twitter. The energy that's giving is that Gunn lies often, or if not straight up lying, stretching the truth to save himself the embarrassment. I'm just glad he removed it because this is horrendous. Gunn has also stated that there are other characters that will appear in Superman that have not been announced yet. One last question. Are there other characters who will appear in Superman who have not been announced yet? Yes. There could be many characters that could exist in this world, but one I'm willing to bet on is Solaris. This scene has not been talked about in a while. This is either Brainiac, Solaris, or maybe even a Sun Eater. On the DC Showcase podcast, they had James Gunn on, and Gunn reveals some more information.
You typically build your direction over soundtracks, but this time with Superman, you did it with a score.
That's true. How
different was that for you?
Different.
Yeah.
Different. There's I love music. I love putting songs in movies. And there's a couple songs in Superman, but mostly it's score. It's different. It's I get, in some ways, the first movie I've done that with, one of the ways I feel like that I'm able to grow as a director or an artist is to take away things that I rely on. Like when I did Guardians, it was, I'd always, my work had always been very brash, very in your face. With Guardians, I was like, oh, there's like a sweetness here. Like, even though there's, the craziness and the oddness, there's a sweetness to these characters. And this is about, love and being vulnerable. And so it was taking away a lot, and I learned a lot, not only about making movies and what people love, but also about myself through that process. And now it's doing it even more with Superman, taking away some of the need to even be edgy in the first place. And it's not relying on the songs. It's about this pure, good, beautiful guy who is trying to get by in a world that isn't those things. And he just happens to have superpowers.
Right.
I used to be kind of harsh. And I feel sad about that. I was a punk rock kid, right? I got in fights all the time and was like just always kind of in your face. Started out making movies in the independent film, in New York during the heyday when everybody screamed at each other. It was a very angry place. Came to LA with that same attitude. Had friendships break up early on because I was so incredibly intense about everything. Listen, I'm not that, you hear a lot of people say, well, that's the way I am. I'm just really intense. But no, it's not. I was mean. I could be nicer to people. I didn't need to be so, harsh all the time. So yeah, I've changed a tremendous amount. But also, I'm more vulnerable. I'm not ashamed of having feelings. I'm not ashamed of failing. I'm not ashamed of somebody hurting my feelings. I'm not ashamed of, being, sad about something. I'm not ashamed of feeling love and affection for people. I think that I would cover all that stuff up with dark humor for many, many years. And I still have a dark sense of humor, but it's also balanced out with this other part of me as a human being that I think has made me a better filmmaker, or at least a more approachable filmmaker.
Sounds like we won't be getting needle drops or shock value, as he is not afraid to feel emotions anymore. I love that Gunn said this, and if true, could be huge for the new DCU. James Gunn redemption arc incoming, we love to see it. I'll even forgive some of the bad VFX unless y'all fix it, and cringy one-liners if it's at a minimum.
Gotta get back to the fray.
James Gunn also says the deaths in the DCU are real. No one is coming back.
Say, I'm pretty big on killing people and not bringing them back.
I know.
Because it's then, except for robots. Robots can be killed and come back anytime.
Of course.
But when people, when you start doing that all the time, then it doesn't mean anything. And I want for people to go see my shows and my movies and everything else and be like, if somebody's life is at stake, that has real stakes, that has real value. Because once you start just killing people and bringing them back all the time.
I agree that bringing back characters removes the weight and feel of the moment and scene. I'm glad to hear his firm stance on this, but hope no one super important dies. How do you feel about the comments Gunn has made here? Are you more or less hyped for Gunn's take on Superman? Please be sure to let me know down in the comments below or hit me up on Twitter. Some new footage of Lex Luthor was dropped, almost like a character video here of Lex. I like this a lot, and I'm hoping they release some more character videos of the other characters in the coming weeks.
Your obsession with me is getting a little creepy.
Don't worry. Tall, dark, and Martian isn't my type.
We also have a little snippet of Lois and Clark during the interview training scene that was released.
You've gotten a lot of heat on social media lately.
I don't read that stuff. Superman doesn't have time for selfies.
Third person. You're referring to yourself in third person now?
No, it's just a thing I came up with that I thought I'd try to work into the next interview.
This is on the record, Superman.
Okay, well, not the part where I said that.
Yes, that part.
No, that part was an aside. That was off the record.
You have to say off the record beforehand, not after.
Why are you being like this?
It's fine. I won't write that you spend your spare time trying to think up sound bites, which are terrible, by the way.
I don't love the fact that he says selfies, but in the context, it's fine for him to say Superman doesn't have time for selfies because he's putting on a show and acting like a character, but hopefully we don't get many more cringy lines like this in the movie. We are in for a treat this week. DC fans eating good. A new Superman teaser dropped today. We get a little bit more footage with an amazing monologue of sorts of Superman really leaning into his human side.
You were out there helping them?
I thought I was. They've always been wrong about me. I get scared, but that is being human. And that's my greatest strength.
I'm gonna be completely honest with you, this got me kind of hyped. I loved this shot. The line delivery, the emotion, this alone got me more hyped than anything else we have seen recently, and I am now more excited to see this movie.
We have to stop Lex.
Ready?
Let's do it.
July 11th. Summer is
Buckle up.
looking up.
You have a dog. You were out there helping them?
I thought I was. I was sent here to serve the people of Earth and to help the world to be a better place. That's why I do what I do.
Superman, I'll destroy you.
Your obsession with me is getting a little creepy. Hey, buddy, eyes up here.
Rated PG-13. In theaters.
That's all for this week. Stay tuned to the DC Metal Nerd for more news and updates. I'd really appreciate a like if you enjoyed this video, and please rock that subscribe and notification bell so you don't miss out on anything in the coming weeks. Keep it heavy, stay nerdy.